Think about the last time someone truly respected you, not liked you, not appreciated you, not smiled at you across a table and said the right things at the right moments. Respected you, that specific feeling, that particular quality of attention someone gives you when they are not entirely sure what you will do next, when they cannot predict your next move, when they realize somewhere deep in the part of them that calculates social risk that you are not fully within their control. That feeling. When was the last time someone gave that to you? And more importantly, when was the last time you gave them reason to? Because here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody is going to frame nicely for you. Most of the people in your life do not respect you. They are comfortable with you and comfort. The kind that comes from knowing exactly how you will respond, exactly how much you will tolerate, exactly how far they can push before you push back, is the opposite of respect. Comfort is control wearing a friendly face, and you have been mistaking it for love. The difference between liked and respected. We have been taught since childhood to want to be liked. Be nice, be agreeable, be easy, be the person in the room that nobody has a problem with. Smooth your edges, lower your voice, make yourself digestible, make yourself safe, make yourself the kind of person that people feel comfortable around. And we followed that instruction. Most of us followed it for years, decades. We built entire personalities around being palatable, around being the one who never makes things difficult, the one who goes along, the one who absorbs the tension so others do not have to feel it, the one who bends. And people liked us for it. They did. They liked how easy we were, how available, how consistently present and accommodating and forgiving and endlessly patient. They liked that they knew exactly what they were getting when they came to us. No surprises, no resistance, no complications. They liked us the way people like a comfortable couch. Something you use without thinking about. Something you take for granted because it has never once failed to be exactly where you left it. But nobody respects a couch. Nobody loses sleep over whether the couch is still going to be there in the morning. Nobody lies awake thinking about what the couch wants. Nobody changes their behavior because they are worried about how the couch will respond. The couch just receives, and receives, and receives, until someone decides it is time for a new one. That is what being endlessly likable costs you. It costs you your unpredictability. And unpredictability, the sense that you are a person with real limits, real standards, real responses that cannot be predetermined, is the very foundation of respect. Think about the people in your own life that you respect most deeply, not the ones you like most, the ones you respect. I would be willing to wager that every single one of them has something in common. They are not entirely easy, not difficult for the sake of it, not cruel, not deliberately complicated, but there is something about them, some quality of self-possession, some sense that they operate by an internal code that is not negotiable, that makes you slightly careful around them. That makes you think before you speak to them. That makes you bring a certain quality of attention to the interaction because you know, instinctively, immediately, that this is not someone who will simply absorb whatever you bring without response. They have boundaries, not rules they announce, not lines they draw dramatically in conversation, just a clear and palpable sense that there are places you cannot go with them, things that will not be tolerated, standards that will not be compromised regardless of what you offer in exchange. And that quality, that immovable self-possession, is what you have been trained your whole life to suppress. How control disguises itself. Control does not always look like control. That is the most important thing to understand about the dynamic we are talking about. Because when most people hear the word control, they picture something obvious, something aggressive, someone demanding and domineering and loud about what they expect from you, someone who issues commands and punishes resistance. And yes, that is one version. But the control that is most effective, the kind that runs deepest and lasts longest and does the most damage, is invisible. It looks like relationships where someone is always a little disappointed in you no matter what you do, where the bar keeps moving just slightly out of reach every time you get close to it, where you find yourself constantly recalibrating your behavior, trying to find the version of yourself that will finally be enough. It looks like friendships where one person is always the giver and one person is always the receiver, and somehow this arrangement is never directly discussed because the giver has been conditioned to believe that giving is their role and the receiver has learned that the giver will give regardless. It looks like workplaces where the people who ask for nothing are given nothing and the people who advocate for themselves are quietly resented but ultimately taken more seriously. It looks like approval. This is the sneaky one. When someone makes their approval the currency of your relationship, when you have learned that love or acceptance or belonging in this dynamic is conditional on behaving in ways that serve the other person, they have achieved total control over you without ever raising their voice. You police yourself for them. You do not need them to tell you what is acceptable because you have internalized their standards so completely that you enforce them on yourself automatically. You think before you speak around them. You edit, you soften, you adjust, you make yourself smaller so they do not have to ask you to. And they call this a good relationship because from their perspective it is. They get exactly what they want from you, every time, without effort. But here is the moment I want to draw your attention to. When did they start taking you for granted? I would guess it was not at the beginning. At the beginning, there was probably something more alive in how they engaged with you. More genuine curiosity, more real attention, more of the quality of presence that feels like actual connection. That began to fade at the exact moment they realized they had you, that they had figured out your pattern, that they knew how much they could take and how long they could wait and how they could behave and still be sure of your response. The moment you became predictable is the moment you became manageable, and the moment you became manageable is the moment you stopped being someone they truly respected. This happens in romantic relationships, in friendships, in families, in workplaces, in every human dynamic where one person has learned that the other will absorb indefinitely without consequence. The absorption is comfortable, the absorption is convenient. But the absorption is slowly, quietly, completely destroying the respect that should be the foundation of any real connection. And the worst part, you feel it. You have always felt it. That low-frequency sense that something is off, that the dynamic is not balanced, that you are working harder than the other side, that your presence is assumed rather than valued, that the care you extend is received but not reciprocated with the same quality of attention. You felt it and you explained it away. You told yourself you were being too sensitive, too demanding, too needy. You told yourself that this is what relationships look like, that not everyone expresses things the same way, that you should be grateful for what you have and stop wanting more from people who are doing their best. But your instinct was right. You had become easy. And easy is never respected. What they respect instead. So what does command respect? Not arrogance. Let me be clear about that immediately, because this is where the conversation gets misunderstood. Arrogance is performance. Arrogance is loudly announcing your value because somewhere deep down you are not sure of it and you need the external confirmation. Arrogance pushes. Arrogance demands. Arrogance is deeply insecure, wearing aggressive clothing. That is not what we are talking about. What commands genuine respect is something quieter and something far more difficult to develop. It is the ability to be completely comfortable with the possibility of losing something rather than compromise what you actually stand for. Read that again slowly. The ability to be completely comfortable with the possibility of losing something rather than compromise what you actually stand for. This is what makes someone truly difficult to control. Not that they are aggressive, not that they are confrontational, not that they make scenes or issue ultimatums or perform their independence for an audience, but that they are genuinely okay with walking away. from the relationship, from the approval, from the belonging, from the comfort, from whatever the other person has been using as leverage. When you no longer need what they are withholding, when the approval or the acceptance or the love or the position no longer has the power to bend your behavior, you become something they have no framework for, someone they cannot calculate. And people invest real effort in understanding those they cannot calculate. They start paying attention differently. They start listening with more care. They start choosing their words with more intention because they cannot predict with confidence how you will receive them. They start, in short, respecting you. Not because you demanded it, not because you performed value for them, but because your self-possession made itself undeniable. Think about every person you have watched command a room without trying. They were not the loudest. They were not the most aggressive. They were not the most impressive on paper. But there was something about them, some quality of settled certainty about who they were and what they stood for, that made other people adjust around them rather than expecting them to adjust. That quality is available to you. It does not come from achievement. It does not come from status. It does not come from having more or being more or proving more. It comes from one single terrifying, liberating decision to stop performing for people who have not earned the show. How you take it back. This is the part that nobody tells you will be uncomfortable. Because when you begin to stop being easily controlled, when you start responding differently, holding your ground, letting silences sit instead of rushing to fill them with accommodation, people will not immediately respond with respect. First, they will respond with confusion. They will not understand what has changed. They will probe. They will test. They will send the same signals that used to produce the expected result and wait for the familiar response that does not come. Then they will respond with pressure. They will escalate. They will bring out the tools that have always worked before: the guilt, the disappointment, the withdrawal of approval, the implication that you are being difficult or selfish or changed in a way that is not becoming. This is the moment most people fold, because the pressure feels personal. It feels like rejection. It feels like you are doing something wrong by simply refusing to be what you have always been for them. But here is what is actually happening in that moment. You are watching them reveal how dependent they were on your compliance. Their discomfort is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that the dynamic is shifting, and dynamics only shift in discomfort. There is no comfortable version of this. There is no way to reclaim your self-possession without the people who benefited from your lack of it noticing and reacting. So you let them react. You do not explain yourself extensively. Explanation is a form of asking for permission, and you are done asking for permission to be the full version of yourself. You do not apologize for the change. The old version of you owed them nothing. The new version of you owes them even less. You simply continue. You continue being the version of yourself that has standards, that has limits, that responds rather than reacts, that chooses silence over automatic accommodation, that is comfortable in the uncertainty of not knowing exactly how they will receive you because you have stopped making their reception the measure of your value. And something will happen. Not immediately, not dramatically, not all at once. But something will shift. Some of them will adjust. They will begin to engage with you differently, more carefully, more genuinely, because they can feel, even if they cannot articulate it, that the old dynamic is no longer available. And some of them will leave, and that will hurt. But their leaving will also tell you something important. It will tell you that what they valued was never you. It was your compliance, your accessibility, your predictable, endlessly available, never too much accommodation. And a relationship built on compliance is not a relationship. It is a convenience. Here is what I want to leave you with today. Respect is not something that is given to the easy. It is something that is earned by the real version of you, the one with actual limits, actual responses, actual lines that will not be crossed for the sake of comfort. That version is what commands genuine attention. Not the performance of strength, not the announcement of value, not the aggressive assertion of your worth to people who have already decided to overlook it. Just the quiet, settled, unshakable certainty of someone who knows what they stand for and has decided, finally, permanently, without apology, to stand there. They will call it a change. They will call it difficult. They will tell you that you have become someone they do not recognize. Let them. Because what they are not recognizing is the version of you that refused to be controlled anymore. And the moment they realize that version is the one that is staying, that is the moment the respect begins. Welcome to Detached Reality.